I'm Renee,
And I'm Gil from the Rich Relationship
and
Refuge,
we
as
are
you guys.
so glad to be with you this Saturday morning. Today's episode is called Who Told You That?
Th-
Hey,
This
thanks
is
for
this
joining
is
us.
this is one of Renee's favorite topics, y'all. So I think that we've done it before, but it's always good to remind yourselves about things that you may have talked about before or even discussed before, but you have to constantly revisit and do the things that you did to come back to do what you're doing again, to
Right, and
be
to make
consistent.
sure. Hey, good morning. Thank you for joining us. If you are joining us now live, or if you're going to be watching this later, put in the chat where you're joining us from. We're so happy to see you. Hello, good morning.
Brian's place, what's going on,
Hey,
y'all?
Brian. Thank you guys for joining us. We're so glad you guys are here. Today's episode is called Who Told You That? One of the first books I wrote was Tragedy to Majesty. And one of the first poems I wrote was Beauty Beyond the Mirror. And basically, what it talked about was when I was young, I believed that what other people said about me mattered. But as I've grown and as I've matured, you begin to realize it's really what you say about you that matters. And so we're going to talk about the source of your beliefs. We're going to talk about your internal dialogue, is what today's episode is going to
So,
be about.
so go jump in. I
Yeah,
mean, because this is something that we've been wanting to talk about, and we usually talk about things that have been brought up from the comments or just from feedback that we've gotten, just to bring relevant current topics. Because we could come up with a ton of stuff, y'all, to just talk about what we think is important. But when you talk about the topics that the community that
right.
you guys are saying, hey, let's dialogue about that,
Yeah.
because we work with couples consistently throughout the week and things like that. And even we see not necessarily patterns, but we see commonality in a lot of
Mhm.
the relationships that we either are interacting with from a on a case by case basis,
Or just us.
or even from a distance,
Yeah.
just even relating to us. So that's kind of why we wanted to talk about this, because you think about your origin and your history, even think about your internal dialogue that you have from your past, from your childhood, all these different situations that we have gone through just living life, it can impact our current
Well,
relationships.
no, it does impact
It
us.
does.
It
It
does.
does.
It does. And so one of the things that it says in the poem was that basically learning that what do you say about you? I went to the women's conference last week, and one of the things that she said that really resonated with me, and it's something that God has showed me before, was she said, we're all influencers and we all have influence. And the person is the influencer person that is speaking into your life. But our biggest influencer is us because we talk to ourselves more than anyone else. And one of the things I can say as a female that has helped me was to change what I said about me. Because so many times, your parents have said things, your teachers said things, there's people who
Coaches,
have
people have
coaches have
influence.
spoke to you.
Yeah.
So when it says who told you that, we need to go back, and if there's something that we believe, we can always believe what the word of God says about us. And that's why the Bible says,
First.
yes,
That's what we should be
yes,
believing
that should be the
first.
first place. But it doesn't start with the Bible
No.
because we're kids before we can read the Bible. So it starts with what your parents say. And so I had to learn how to go back and say, why do I believe that about? Why do I believe I'm dumb? Well, if your mom tells you you're dumb every day, then you're going to believe that. And so all those tapes that were playing in my head, I had to physically, when I became a believer, go back and say, what's the origin of that? And is it a good source? And if it wasn't the Bible, or if it wasn't positive, encouraging, and built me up, I had to replace it with something else. And so I had to start changing what I said about myself, what I allow other people to say about myself, and that I changed the source of it. So that's something we all have to do, is when there's something you believe about yourself, you need to go back in your mind and say, where did that come from? Who told me that? So that you can begin to insert things that are encouraging and are going to build you up, that are going to lead you to becoming the best version of yourself.
Especially when it comes to negative dialogue.
Yes.
One, you can talk yourself in and out of anything.
Yeah.
You know,
We're
I
our
don't
best salespeople.
Oh man, I don't care what it is, whether it's buying a new pair of shoes or buying a new car. If you really, really want it, think about where your dialogue is taking you.
Mhm.
For example, if you want a new car and all of a sudden you keep thinking about all these different methods, all these different ways of the reasons why you deserve it. You
Right.
work hard, you come up with all these positive things, but do you balance it out with some of the realism of what it's going to take for you to get into that new vehicle? For an example,
Yeah, and one of the things that doing this week, adding up the cost, because so many times, like you said, we can tell ourselves we want anything, but do we also tell ourselves why we don't need it? Because if you don't learn how to tell yourself no, then you're going to live your life being controlled by your appetites, and our appetites are insatiable.
so have you ever talked yourself in and out of something? Put it in the chat. Just
Yes.
jumping in there, whatever it was, whatever that situation was or circumstance. I don't care if it was buying that new car or doing a new house, or and that's just intangible things that
or
you can
or
buy,
or,
or
or
even making
buying
a
a new
decision.
garment, buying some clothing,
Or how about this one? Should I stay with him or her or not? We
Yes.
see that one and hear that one a lot, where you have these dialogues and we'll make excuses for maybe some situations that we are in that we want to get out of, or maybe we want to stay in, and it may not be the best situation for us as a whole. So ask yourself, do you have that dialogue with yourself? And if it is, where's the origin of it, like Renee said, and where did it come from? If it's negative, how is it impacting your life right now today? Because we say it a lot on whether it's the podcast episodes or these videos, the longest journey that you're going to take is the one inward.
Yeah. And the thing is that the one person who will always be there with you is the Lord. But if we don't go to him, if we don't go to his word and say, well, what does the Bible say about this? What does God's word have to say about that? I was talking to one of my friends and we were talking about, and people have said it before. Sometimes Gil says it too, that life doesn't come with instructions. You got to figure it out. And I don't believe that. I believe that life does come with instructions.
Oh,
I believe
okay.
that the Bible does give you instructions on everything. I mean, I don't care what you're going through, the Bible has an answer and a solution, but we don't take the time to take out or apply the principles. Because a lot of times we know the stories of the Bible, but we don't understand how does this situation, what does the Bible say about this situation? And so it's understanding the principle that the story is teaching and not just knowing the context of the story. And so I think that it's important that we realize that when we're going through things, when we're trying to make decisions, when we are trying to become, it's the beginning of the year, become the best version of yourself. The only way that's going to happen is if you have something that is a solid foundation that you're getting your source of
Because
information
how
from.
many times have you, as if you're out in the community, if you're just joining in, we're talking
Thank
about
you. Who told you that?
so so if you're thinking about it, how and where did you get some of this, like Brian says here, some of the self-talk that you actually have done over the years? And sometimes it may be something that you have revisited over and over and over again.
Yes.
Where did that get imprinted on you at an early stage in your life, whether it was positive or negative? Because sometimes we naturally gravitate to the negative and just think, oh, this is something that I'm going to always be struggling with, so always be
Yeah,
dealing
that's
with,
not true.
always going through. Well, you also have the positive self-talk or
Mm-hmm.
positive things that
The
have happened,
affirmations,
that
encouragement.
because sometimes y'all, you're not going to get it from people when you need it the most.
Yeah.
And yes, you can read your Bible and that's encouraging, but it just does something when you have somebody not necessarily affirm you to build you up to where you are relying on that person to be that fuel that you need to get over things, but you have a time frame where it's important that you have people in your life, and if they're not in your life that's speaking positive to you, or you can do it to yourself.
Yeah, because it really does start with you and God.
Mm.
Because if you can start with you and God when no one else is there, you're used to doing it. So many times we think that the solution is to get married, to have a baby, to get a new house, to get a new car. But the real answer is because all of those things are just that, people and things. So we have to make sure that the source of our identity, the source of our information about ourselves comes from God and the Bible, because people are human. We're going to fail you. We're going to disappoint you. And so we have to give people the same grace to be human that God gives us to be human. And so that starts with us checking, where do we get that information from? And also, like you was saying, making sure we're not talking ourselves into things that we shouldn't be into. and that we shouldn't be talking ourselves out of things that we should actually be doing.
And Keisha, thanks for your comment. You say, should I stay or should I go? Through internal conversations only with a Bible reference implement. Absolutely. One thing that you have to think about also is when you have to make choices and major decisions that are going to not just impact you, think about, I say it like this, count up the cost.
Right.
You know, we can make a choice, whether it's a vocational change, whether there's a relational change, whether it's a geographical change, just change in general that you are going to make in your life. You should sit back and count up the cost of what it's going to, what and how is it going to impact your life and the people that are in your life, because none of us are by ourselves. None of us.
And let's make it practical. One of the things we learned is from Andy Stanley. In light of your present situation, your future hopes and dreams, and your past experiences, what is the wise thing to do?
So if you ask yourself those three questions, it can shed a lot of light on what's the wise thing to do. And it may not align with what you want to do.
Very rarely.
You think about what you want to do. It's just like what Renee mentioned earlier. How many things do we have, or things that we purchase, or things that we've done that's a want or a need? You want to do a lot of stuff, but do you need to do a lot of things? I don't care whether it's buying something, selling something, going someplace, doing something. Wants and needs. You ask yourself that question: is this a want or is this a need? Ask yourself that, and be honest with it, because again, it goes back to what we said already. You could sell yourself on anything.
And let's talk about it from the perspective of a relationship.
Okay.
Because I'm not sure, is that what you were talking about, Keisha? Or should you go or should you stay? When it comes to relationships, if it's a marriage relationship that you're referring to, one of the things, we just went to a wedding last night. Oh my gosh, I love weddings. Mm-hmm. It was beautiful. And I think a part of what we don't remember when it comes to a wedding is that it says, till death do you part. And so in light of that, you have to add up the cost of what it means to be married to this person. Because, over the years of us working with couples, he was lazy, or, he had 3 kids, or his credit was bad. I'm going to get a divorce. You didn't know all that stuff before you married him. And so before you make a decision that's going to affect you for the rest of your life, that's when you get to ask all the hard questions. That's when you should be asking. That's when you can be picky and you can be petty when in the beginning when you're dating.
Especially when you're dating.
Yes, because you need to really know, well, is this a person that I really am going to be able to spend the rest of my life with? If I get sick, are they going to bounce? So it's important that we ask ourselves the questions that we don't normally want to ask in the beginning of something, because it's easier to do that versus trying to undo it later on.
Because let me chime in. You said something, especially when it comes to dating. Dating, if you think about it, why do you date? Mm-hmm. We believe dating is preparation for marriage. That's right. The only reason why. Now, I know there's a lot of different reasons why people are dating.
Right.
And most of the time is to satisfy a physical need. It could be, and I'm not just talking
that's
sexually.
Not a date.
I'm talking about, it could be something just because you're alone, you feel insecure. I mean, it's just a lot of different things and a lot of reasons why. But the main reason, as the Bible talks about, is preparation for marriage. Like in Genesis 3, you're going to leave your mother and your father and be cleaved to your wife. It says that. So when you think about it, you have to ask yourself, especially if you're watching this and you're in a dating relationship and you haven't walked down that aisle. Trust me, when we say this, we work with couples for over 18, almost 19 years. That should be the most transparent, and you can have fun, but make sure you take the time, effort, and energy to really, really ask those hard questions. If you want to know
of yourself and of the other person.
So if you want to know what those hard questions are, we got stuff on our website that we talked about with dating and stuff like that, that you can put it in the chat. You can send us an email and we can give you some questions to ask to broach some hard conversations, because sometimes you need that advocate or that person, that intermediary, not to be in your dating life, not to be involved with the intricacies of your date, but to guide you along a path of like, I want to make the wise, best decision as possible. Yes, the physical aspect is important and the financial aspect is important, all those things, but there are so many more things that cover a relationship that if you're focused on one area, let's just use it. We all hopefully adults here, the sexual side. That is something that you're going to jump to first because you're physically attracted. That's, I mean, that's the first thing you go by when you meet someone. You see them visually and you say, ooh, I like the way that person looks for whatever reason, whatever body part you like or whatever feature you like, that's going to attract you. But once you have that thing, even just like if you bought a new car or something like that and you loved it and you dreamt about it and got it, once you started driving it, some of the luster.
No, once you had to pay the bill, the first car note.
Well, once you obtain that thing, some of the luster goes away. So it's the same in relationships. But when you have had some time and you spent some time with this person, that same feature that really, really attracted you, now you start needing more. What else is there behind that physicality or that visual that really attracted you? What else is behind that person? Or what is the values? What is the character? The things that are going to be or have the biggest impact in your life long term that you say, man, I wish I would have. Have you ever had a wish I would have? Well, the time you wish you would have is when you're in the dating process or in your early stages or when you just haven't walked down the aisle. And guess what? Even if you walk down the aisle and you miss some of the I wish I would have,
right,
that still is not a reason why you can't ask those questions.
Yeah. And a part of it is understanding that if we make a decision that we end up regretting, that's why the Bible says his mercies are new every single day. So if you have
made a
wrong decision, which we all do,
yeah,
it's understanding that you are not your bad choice.
You're not the sum total.
You are not the sum total of the choices, the good and the bad decisions we make. So again, what we're talking today is about who told you that. So many times we have to challenge the origin of what we've been told and what we believe about ourselves. But we also have to challenge what are our beliefs? Where are we getting our source of it? So is it the Bible? Is it social media? Is it our friends? Is it our culture? And so a part of growing and a part of becoming the best version of yourself is being able to look at and say, okay, because I always say, who I was last year, she's gone. She's not coming back. What can I do to be a better version of myself? What are the things that I did last year that worked? And I'll continue to do that. What are the things last year that I did that didn't work? And so a part of it is understanding that in order for us to be in relationships, in order for us to thrive in the marriages and other relationships we're in, is that we have to be looking at ourselves and we have to say, why do I believe that about myself? Why am I saying that about myself? When I hear people say, oh, I'm so stupid. No, don't say things like that about yourself. Can you have made a stupid choice? Yes. But does that make you stupid? No.
Even if it pertains to relationships, if your picker was broke when you made that choice of dating this person, or even let's just say you walk down the aisle and you're married now, doesn't mean it's the end of the road. Anything can be improved. We work with couples that have been in some really bad places that have turned it around because they were willing to do the work,
right?
And do that self-actualization to say, you know what, I have some growth areas in me that I need to work on. We always tell a lot of our couples, you have two people who are broke. Let's just say it this way. And they come into a marriage and then marriage gets the blame for the brokenness in both of us.
Because a part of it, and we say this all the time, there is no such thing as marriage problems. They're individual problems that you bring into your marriage and marriage gets the blame. And so we need to stop blaming the institution of marriage for our broken relationships when really we brought so much brokenness into it. Marriage is just where you see where you're broken. You were broken when you were single.
I seen and this is years ago, we seen a teaching and it always stuck with me. The person that was teaching came out on the stage with a cart. You know, when you go to a hotel and they got for your bags, well, this thing was loaded down with bags and suitcases and luggages and backpacks and everything. It had to be at least 10 to 12 bags on it. And she was pulling it across the stage and she said, this is a symbol of you and your relationship going into a relationship. Let's just say you're dating and all of a sudden you see the baggage behind this person that they're carrying into the relationship.
Wait a
if you knew what was in some of those suitcases, and just imagine you have to unpack each and every one of those bags to find out what it is. Some of it could be good, some of it could be bad.
Right.
But you have to ask yourself, are you willing to take that journey to unpack the other person's bags and deal with the contents? And if you are some negative contents, how do we partner in together to say, how can we do better as a couple? How can I help you with your bags? And how can you help me with my bags? Renee learned a practical lesson. We moved over to Europe early in our career, and we were leaving and we were going traveling. Now you leaving the United States, you going overseas.
Mind you, I was 22.
And I told Renee, you may not want to have all these suitcases. You know, I had learned and I had traveled already, so I was like, we'll ship it, and I'll. You know, how many times you go on a trip and you got 9 pair of shoes and 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pairs of pants, and let's just say for a 5-day trip. Well, we were having stuff shipped, so a lot of our stuff was already en route or whatever. So you just need enough. Let's just say 2 weeks worth of stuff, and you want to take all your stuff.
30 days. I said, well, babe, it's gonna be 30 days, so I need to have 30 days worth of clothes, and I'm dressed up. I got on heels, and
you can ready to take an 8 to 10 hour flight,
and I'm like, well, no, you know, it's crazy. But so Gil said, she who packs it carries it.
Because I have my own bags to pack. So we use that analogy of, you got your own bags that you are bringing into the relationship. You got your own bags that have good contents and bad contents. And so many times we'll focus on the other person's bags and what's in their bags and try to help them unpack their bags. And we still got our own stuff to deal with and to carry. And when you don't think about it in that context, it can cause some problems later on, because your bags can get heavy.
Yes, very much so.
And his bags can be heavy. So if both of you got heavy bags, when is it a time that you can help somebody? Because in our own humanness, we have a limitation.
We do.
We have a limitation of what we can physically carry, but also emotionally carry, mentally carry, all those things. That when you have a partner, when you have somebody in your life, even when you're dating, if you have somebody in your life that is willing to help you carry those bags and carry the weight of what you're going through, it can make your journey or your trip a whole lot more enjoyable. Imagine if I was able to carry 5 of Renee's 6 bags. She probably would have been like, oh, this is the breeze.
I wouldn't have learned though.
Exactly.
But what it taught me was travel light, dress comfortable, and listen to your husband.
So how does that apply in a relationship way? How do you travel?
Okay. And so one of the things that I will say that everybody needs to have is good communication, which is the ability to articulate what you want and what you need with clarity and precision.
Ooh.
And the ability to listen, to understand, and not to interpret or read into or evaluate.
Because how many of you in relationships have conversations with yourself, and you, even if you're just dating or even if you're married, you have a conversation by yourself. Say you're driving home and you know that let's just say there's a underlying conflict that has been going on for a little while, and you driving and you're like, well, I'm gonna say this,
and he gonna say this,
and she gonna say that,
and then I'm gonna
come back with this, and then she gonna say this, but I already know what she gonna say.
Yeah.
Well,
so you're going into the conversation already with it already at the end. Your mind, a preconceived notion. You don't give that other person the chance to do something different, because you're already judging them based on what you think they're going to do.
Based on history, circumstances, especially when you've been together for
autobiographical listening.
Yeah, we did an episode on that. Yeah. Especially when you have been together for a while and you think you know this person and everything that they think and say and feel. But Renee just told you, we change over time. We change quickly.
Every day.
So something that may have bothered you yesterday, now all of a sudden God spoke to you and you have this epiphany of like, you know what? I was wrong. But imagine the person you get ready to go into this conflict conversation with has had this epiphany of, I'm just going to own it. So when she comes home or when he comes home and we talk about this, I'm just going to say, babe, that's on me. That's my bad. But you already got this conversation played out in your head. How are you going to bring it?
And when that happens, what you bring into the equation is pride. And so you don't even give the person. So the person says, babe, okay, so this happened. I'm upset with you. And when you did this, you were wrong. And then,
And even if I had already resolved in my heart that I'm gonna own it,
yeah.
you're gonna get like this.
So now you've
You
created,
feel like you got to
now you've
defend.
changed the scenario to it to be against you versus in your favor. And so the things that we need to make sure we have in our bag is good communication, conflict resolution. And conflict resolution is being able to set aside a time to define what the problem is and to work through a solution that you both agree upon. One conflict at a time.
We talking about who told you that. Well, when you're going into a conflict, the who told you person,
It's probably you.
you probably have already told yourself something of that's about the situation, whatever that is. But is it true?
Right.
There's a difference between the truth and your truth.
Right.
And
Especially in this generation, y'all. The people in their truth. Your truth may not be the truth.
Mhm.
So I think a part that goes back to our beliefs. What are your beliefs and your values? Well, if your truth is based on what culture says and what your feeling says and what your appetite says, that might not be the truth. The truth benefits more than just you. The truth benefits over the truth brings light and freedom and liberty, and it brings peace.
I like this what Keisha said. I'm looking at the chat. Yeah. So true. Wants and needs are so different. Counting up the cost, viewing our choices affect others. Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Brian, yep. Marriage is like a flashlight. The light shines on what has been there all along.
It sure does. Thank you so much. And I think so many times we go into this idea of marriage that, oh, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna marry my Prince Charming and he's gonna make all my problems go away. And we're gonna have this like romantic destiny, like, because we watch a lot of relationship shows. It's just entertaining to me. It's funny, but it's fun. But oh, I just want that romantic Disney. What Disney is a movie, y'all. That is not in real life. You're gonna have difficulties and adversity, and you're gonna have sickness and disease, and you're gonna have high credit scores and low credit scores. And so we need to stop sensationalizing and sexualizing marriage. Sex in marriage, while it is beautiful and wonderful and amazing, it is the smallest part of your relationship. You don't have to be taught how to be good in bed, but you do need to learn how to be good at communication, conflict resolution,
roles and responsibilities,
having some
family,
empathy, having some
grace,
compassion,
less pride, all these different things. And none of those are sexy, y'all.
Well, the result of them are sexy because I think you're a very, very sexy man.
I appreciate that, but we talking to them. We got company, y'all.
I'm sorry. And so I just think that what we want to do, and one of the things the Lord really showed us was we are going to focus more on being the conflict resolution and communication people.
Because that is the foundation. We talked about foundation already, but where did you get your foundation for what you are and how you conduct yourself in your relationship, whether you're in a dating phase or in a marriage phase? A lot of it comes from our origin and our history of if you had people in your life, whether it's mom, dad, if you didn't have mom and didn't have dad in the house, where did you learn to resolve conflict? How did you learn to communicate?
And do you even know how to resolve conflict?
And if you don't, anything can be taught, y'all.
And listen,
you can learn.
Sweeping it under the rug is not it, although that is the way most people resolve conflict. I made a little short about that, about sweeping stuff under the rug. It does not.
All you're doing is delaying the inevitable.
One of the things I can say about Gil and I, we have conflicts all the time, but what we don't have is unresolved conflicts. Conflicts are not bad. Unresolved conflicts are bad. We do not always agree. We are totally different, but we have learned the importance of resolving our conflicts one at a time, because if you don't, that conflict that you don't resolve, it will be a trigger for something else later on.
Just imagine it. We put it this way, and we shared this with one of our couples, is every conflict is a brick.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't do and resolve it, you're just adding bricks to this wall that gets built up.
And it keeps you apart.
And it separates you. It's like a wall that gets built right here. One pillow at a time, y'all. She keeps stacking it up. Oh Lord. Who does this? I know it's I know
I
this
don't
look
know why
crazy.
we're not close. I just don't feel connected to you. You just feel so distant and far
Well,
away.
it's all these barriers and all this stuff that has been put and that we have allowed to be built up between us. We didn't practice that, y'all. We didn't plan that. This is just
It's just
we
my
just trying to
brain.
share stuff that we know applies and works in a visual way to say, you know what, it can be worked on, it can be done.
Yeah.
But you notice, just like what we did, it took two of us to take down those bricks or those pillows that have been put up over.
And don't feel bad if you need somebody else to help you.
That's what we're here for. That's why we're doing this.
That's why we're here. We do not have a perfect marriage. We are not perfect. We do not know everything. But if I can say one thing I know for a fact, we are really good at communicating and resolving conflict.
And
Those
we
are
can
our
share it
two
with you,
strengths.
and we'll share it with you. We'll
Yeah.
share it with you, and we
We're
do
not
that.
good at relaxing and playtime and a whole lot of other stuff, but conflict resolution, and I think that has been the strength of our
Oh
marriage.
yeah, because we've gone through some things that if we did not have those things as a foundational principle that we apply every single day, it would be impossible to have stayed together these 35 years.
Yeah.
It's
With
impossible.
all the obstacles, and honey, baby, trust me, the enemy has come for us on so many levels and so many different ways. But the thing that has been our relationship with God, our ability to communicate and to resolve conflict. Those three things for us
You good.
have been, because guess what? Leisure, that's nice, but I have never seen anybody build a marriage on leisure. Sex
Not a successful
is
one.
nice, but guess what? You can't. So the things that we see all the time in social media, baby, don't build your marriage on
I
that.
guarantee, and if you don't believe us, you can Google it, you can search it, you can research it. Ask anybody that you know that has a successful marriage and ask them how important is conflict resolution and communication in a relationship. Check us out. Ask.
Yeah.
Check what we just said.
Yeah.
Go ask somebody.
Yeah. Ask Google. Ask Alexa.
Or even ask somebody that you know that has what you believe to be a good marriage or a good relationship, even if they're dating. Ask them how important is conflict resolution and communication, and keeping their relationship going and building on.
Well, a relationship with God, conflict resolution and communication, because a part of it is, even when it comes to the things we talk about as far as being assertive versus being aggressive, active listening, all of those are things that require a certain level of humility and empathy and maturity to navigate. Because the way I handled conflict resolution when I was 20 versus the way I handled it at 56 has changed.
Oh my gosh.
And there's things that we know now that we didn't know. And so don't allow what someone told you, no matter if it's somebody you love and care about. Because again, who told you that? Who told you that all you had to do to have a good marriage was to travel and have sex and have trips and have babies and buy big houses? That is not what is going to make your marriage last. The things that are going to make your marriage last, I think the things that may not be sexy and it may not be popular, and it may not even be, people may not be aware of it. But what we have seen in the years of us being married, as well as working with couples and being around other healthy couples, the couples that thrive and that are enjoying the gift of marriage have a relationship with God, good communication, conflict resolution. Now, can you have other things too? Yeah, you can. But the foundation of it has to be those things. And that's what we want to start doing. So if you guys have conflicts that you want to resolve,
communication, whatever.
Yeah. Let's do some scenarios. If you guys want to see, if you have a scenario you want us to work
or
through
even
with you,
no, and this is something that we've done with our couples in the past. We can work through real conflict.
Yeah.
You know, if you got a pseudonym up here as your profile, and you don't mind sharing this information, because we all are stronger together. We say that on all the episodes. We learn from each other.
We do.
And all we're doing is sharing and facilitating and leading this discussion. That's all we're doing. But we can learn from y'all, just like y'all sitting here listening to us ramble on. I mean, no. But we want to learn from y'all, just like when you guys put comments in in the chat, we share it with them. We try to read them out, because some people are just probably driving and just listening and can't read the chat. So that's why I'm reading them. But we thank you. So what you're sharing, what you guys have gone through, good and bad, somebody can glean from, somebody can learn from. We're stronger together. We say that, and not just as a catchphrase, but it's real that you can always learn from somebody, and then take it, steal it, apply it to your own relationships.
Yeah. And the thing that I think is important is that when we've gotten used to hearing negative things about ourselves in the beginning, because I know when me and Gil first started dating, I didn't believe that he really liked me. I didn't really believe that he really wanted to be with me. Because I had all these negative things going on in my head. So sometimes when you've had negative experiences, when you've had, childhood origin issues, it's hard to receive when someone says something loving and positive about you. So even that is something you have to, when someone tells you something positive, you have had to do the work in your heart so you can receive it.
Yeah.
So that you can see it as positive. Because sometimes when we've had negative things to happen, we think that everything is going to be negative, and it's not.
No.
And so we have to be open to people saying positive things. And so again, the episode is Who Told You That? Who is telling you the things about you that mean the most? It should be God and you. And when people say things that don't align with what you say about yourself, you can say, no, thank you.
Yeah. So we hope you guys got something out of this. We appreciate you hanging out with us. Just
y'all.
remember, internal conversation with yourself. Who told you that? What's your foundation for what you believe and how you are conducting, just even in your life and your relationships? And then check the things that are not on the positive side. What can you do to get better by hanging out with us on these little short messages or these little lives or even the videos, the shorts? We try to put stuff out there.
We have 669 videos, and y'all, we hit 2.5 million views. Y'all are thebomb.com. We love y'all.
We appreciate you, and we thank you.
So grateful.
And we're gonna keep doing it as long as we hopefully you are getting something out of it.
We're gonna keep doing it because the Lord told us to. We're not looking at the results. We're gonna do it till Jesus comes.
So if it's just one of y'all in here, we're gonna be hanging out with the one.
We will.
If it's more than that, we're gonna hang out with y'all too. So get active, get in there, put something in the chat and share and join the community. Get active, get involved, because you got something to say that we all need to hear.
Yes, that's right.
So we appreciate you guys. We love you guys. We'll see you next week.
Next Saturday at 9:30. This is gonna be our time.
We're gonna try this time.
9:30 on Saturday morning is gonna be our time to get together. And next week episode is going to be dun 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 dun.
I don't know.
So we did Who Told You That? So next week's episode is going to be, because the 3 questions is who told you that, who hurt you, and how do you make the people around you feel? So next week's episode is going to be how do you make the people around you feel? So ask them this week. So that's what we're going to talk about on next Saturday. How do you make the people around you feel? Not what you tell yourself. Ask people.
So love you guys. We'll see y'all next week. Remember, we're stronger together.
And they have to tell you in 3 words how you make them feel. Ask. Love you guys. See you next week. You are more than enough. Thanks for joining. See y'all.